Josh, you have a piece out of the Bloomberg today. It's interesting about the extent to which President Trump increasingly sort of complaining, if I can put it that way, about how he's being treated.
Yeah, and this is all presidents get dealt bad hands. It's a case of what they do with it, and the president is really increasingly sort of bent the narrative around himself. He's complained that the FBI has mistreated him. He's complained that the IRS has mistreated him. That's, of course, in relation to him declining to release his tax records. Certainly the media are at the top of his list for being mistreated. Even Fox News, which he watches pretty regularly, he thinks is not sufficiently fair to him. He calls polls suppression polls and refutes the public polls that right now show him trailing Joe Biden, although there's quite some time left in the campaign. So across a range of things, he complains about presidential harassment. He complains that the courts are deferential to presidents, but not him. He really has always put himself at the center of it, but he really is sort of continuing to bend the sort of woe is me narrative around himself right now at a time when, of course, the pandemic is surging again, particularly in the Sun Belt, and Americans are scared and wondering what the governments sort of all levels are going to do about it.
Yeah, that's a long list. You might add China to it, too, because he has a tendency to blame China, certainly for the coronavirus. Do we have any sense whether this is actually a strategy on his part? I mean, politicians historically have not done ill by running against the media. Nobody particularly likes the media that much, so you can run against the media. But running against all those people, is this a political strategy to appeal to the base, or is just this his nature?
I think this is just who he is. I mean, it's always, he's always been sort of the center star of his show, but in 2016, he really tried to channel other people's, frustration through himself. And, we talked about the forgotten men and women of America and that sort of thing. Now it's really increasingly just felt more like it's about himself. So I think that's the change. And, it's troubling even for his staff. I remember it was a couple of weeks ago, his new chief of staff kicked off the week by doing his first ever TV interview as chief of staff. And he said, we're focusing on the American worker. We're going to stick it to China, et cetera, et cetera. Well, within the hour, the president had tweeted the demand that Bubba Wallace, the NASCAR driver, apologize for a noose-like rope being found in his team's garage. So, his sort of ability to sort of change the news agenda can be frustrating, you can imagine, even to his own staff, because they try to set things in one direction and it often doesn't last very long.